Welcome to I Hate James Dobson, a podcast that helps me channel rage into something productive, like rage. Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. My name is Jake. I'm a former evangelical turned queer sex therapist. And today I'm once again joined by the Bard of Avon, Brooke.
Ooh, fancy.
Get a little Billy Shakespeare in here.
Yeah.
Brooke, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I have one cat here with me because he's able to keep calm, and I have another cat right outside the door, pretty upset because he's not able to keep calm.
And I have one cat sleeping in a cat bed at my feet.
Beautiful. It is very nice that the cats are settling in. They like to be around me at all times, which is great because I have abandonment issues.
Yeah. What if they abandoned you? That'd be so weird.
When I got home from work on Wednesday, or Thursday, doesn't matter. I couldn't find them. And I was like a little bit freaked out. They had both like climbed into my clothes hamper. I was just chilling at the bottom of the clothes hamper. Not making noise, not like stuck there, just chilling.
That happened to me with my old cat because she was all black and so were my clothes in college. And she got into my laundry basket and I thought she was gone. I thought she'd slipped out the door.
Oh.
Yeah, it's scary. Well, are you enjoying being a cat owner?
I love being a cat parent. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And me and boyfriend will turn to each other and be like, I love our children. Our children are so smart. They need to collect Beanie Babies and sell pictures of their feet so they can afford college, but they can definitely do college. Good for them.
Yeah, Fig is homeschooled. I don't want her mixing in with all those secular public school cats.
If we come from saber-toothed tigers, why aren't there saber-toothed tigers?
Oh, God.
So last time we talked about the film Sex, Lies, and ... the Truth. People were really receptive to it. It was really nice. But our most frequent comment was that it is a reference to a film, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yes.
Which I did not know and did not come up.
I chatted with someone. Well, chatted. I had one exchange with somebody on Instagram because I'm also thinking of a play by a writer named Eric Bogosian, who I think it's called Sex. Is this what you just said? Sex, Lies, and Videotape?
Yes.
Or Sex, Drugs, and Videotape?
The movie is Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and I think it was turned into a play as well.
I think maybe in the other direction, play first and then movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. But yes, I had to read it in college. I think it's a play on, there's a phrase like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? Isn't that a song?
Yes.
Or a phrase? Okay.
That is definitely a phrase. I don't know the chronology. Editing Jake here. A couple of things are happening all at the same time. Sex, Lies, and Videotape was a film that came out in 1989. It was later turned into a play directed by Seth Wiley in 2003. Brooke here is talking about a play by Eric Bogosian called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll that was written in 1991. Our film, Sex, Lies, and ... the Truth from last time, came out in 1993. So apparently this was a common phrase in the early 90s because we were talking about 3 or 4 different pieces of media, all with variations on the same title. What a mess. But I was slightly embarrassed that in all of the research I did for it, that just didn't come up. And I really appreciate everyone who, to me, it did not feel like a correction. It felt like people were engaged and wanted to share more information with me. I just thought it was very funny how so consistent it was.
But didn't I say it while we were talking?
You mentioned the play, and I cut it from the final episode because I'm a dick. And then people are like, well, it's actually this movie. It's like, okay.
I just would like everyone to know that I did originally mention it. I chatted about it I've been laughing because I've been responding to people a little bit on Instagram, but then I realized they might not know it's me. And so I just sound like the biggest me fan of all.
I mean, if you can't love yourself, etc.
It's like when they're like, "Does Brooke have a cat?" I'm like, "Yes," and then I'm like, "Oh wait, I just sound."
You should just talk in the third person. Here's some fun Brooke facts.
Yeah, but I'm in there. I'm sneaking around in there, everybody. But wait, have you watched Hated Rivalry yet?
Oh, yes, I have. I don't like it.
Jake, why? What are you talking about? What do you like? What's wrong with you?
It's not that I dislike it. It's not that it's bad. I don't love stories where the main tension is coming out, and I don't love enemies to lovers tropes. So it's just
I don't
not for
think
me.
it's really a coming out story. I think it's a love story.
I haven't finished it yet, but
Well, then you can't. Oh,
what I've seen so far, the main like tension is, oh no, how people can't know that I'm gay. We have to keep this a secret. People can't know that I'm sleeping with an enemy. We got to keep it secret.
how far are you?
People said episode 3 is the really important one to watch, and I watched episode 3.
Oh my God. Will you just finish it, please? It
Yeah.
takes it. It's a story. It has an arch. It goes. It has a
I can-
beginning,
I-
a middle, and an end.
I appreciate it.
I'm leaving.
I did post about this on Blue Sky, where I know you aren't, to be like, no one tell Brooke, but
You didn't even finish it. You don't even know. You haven't even been to the cottage.
it's true. I have heard socially about the cottage.
I don't think it's just a coming out story. That is like, yes, they're professional sports players, so they can't come out, and that is a thing. But I think it's more about like falling in love. To me, it feels like a Jane Austen novel. Like it's very like the stuff, and I don't. The rivalry is like not even that big a part of it. Like it's more just like internal stuff. Just leave me alone. I quit. I'm not doing this podcast with you anymore.
I love that you love it. I love that it brings you joy. For anyone out there who likes it, I see why you like it, and I appreciate for you. It's just not my kind of story. I like.
Esther Perel liked it.
I'm sure she. It's not bad. I see why people like it.
Will you finish it?
Yes, I will. I'm
Okay.
committed to finishing it.
Don't you think it's kind of sexy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The butts are incredible.
Thank you.
I'm not against watching it. I'm not against finishing it. I appreciate it. I'm not having a terrible time. It's just also like, this was written for people who aren't me.
Ugh. Fine. We're in a fight.
A fight where I know I'm wrong.
Okay, but we can agree that the new season of Bridgerton is bad, though. Just say yes. I know.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. They also go to a cottage. I don't know what this cottage like thing is, but I have to recover from being mad at you now.
Brooke, today we are doing a deep dive on a topic that has been a thorn in my side for as long as I have been an adult. We're talking about an organization called the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Oh, I've heard of this. Did I hear about this from you?
Maybe. What do you know about them? What does it spark in your brain?
Nothing. I feel like I've just heard this name before.
Well, in
So another
short,
one of those like names that means nothing, right?
kind of. Yeah, Alliance Defending Freedom. In short, the ADF is a law group that turns evangelical moral panic into a permanent legal power.
Great.
A little bit of history. The early 90s, a time we all definitely remember.
Shut up. You're such a little asshole.
Godless heathens everywhere doing sinful things like launching the Hubble telescope and ending the Cold War. This is actually a really nice follow-up to our last episode. Sex, Lies, and ... The Truth came out in 1992. This starts in 1993. And so, Brooke, remind us again, what were the early 90s like?
Well,
Back in my day.
the early 90s were a terrible time for fashion. a wonderful time for pop divas, a great time to be in junior high school, and they were fine.
Cool. Bill Clinton was the president he got inaugurated in 93.
Yeah.
So this is the start of the Bill Clinton time, when we had pivoted away from a good Christian man to truly, I was going to make a joke about it, but like admittedly a rapist. So
But we didn't know that then.
well,
Separate the art from the artist.
the general public did not really know it then at that point. Fair. Oh my God, before we get into it, Brooke.
What?
So we're recording on the 31st of January on Saturday. Yesterday, a new dump of Epstein files came out. There's there's a text exchange where Jeffrey Epstein sends someone articles that James Dobson wrote.
Shut up.
I'm going to send you a screenshot of it right now. The person was like, "Why do I not care that I hurt my dad?" And Jeffrey Epstein sent articles from Dobson.
Oh my God, of course. Do you think Dobson knew him?
No, probably not.
No, that's true.
So in this time of unbridled hedonism and blasphemy, one lone group stood tall against the flood of secularism. Was this true? Not really. But like we talked about last time, the myth of moral decay was how Dobson stoked fear and thus let him grow in his power. So one day, in 1993, our special little boy, James Dobson, got together with some of his friends, including Bill Bright, who founded Campus Crusade for Christ.
I've heard of that too.
Yeah, it's now called Crew. Larry Burkett, who worked for Campus Crusade for Christ and was a radio personality. Dennis James Kennedy, a minister and a television personality.
Was he a Kennedy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
He did create a group called Coral Ridge Ministries, which was labeled an anti-LGBT hate group by the SPLC. Marlon Maddow, creator of Point of View, a Christian radio show, Christianity Today, called the most popular live Christian call-in show. And Mark Sillahander, a former Michigan politician.
I just dissociated.
Me too.
I just saw both of our faces. I'm sorry, but I was just staring into space while you were going, Sillahander. Salamander?
Yes, Mark Salamander, a former Michigan politician and failed national politician. If you notice, most of these people are like media personalities, Christian media personalities. And they thought, damn, the ACLU is protecting too many rights. We need the legal ability to be assholes to gay people more.
God.
And thus, the Alliance Defense Fund was born. They announced it at the 1994 National Religious Broadcasters Convention, which is fitting because all of them were, in some way, evangelical media personalities. But they are media personalities, they're not lawyers. So originally, it was an organization that helped to finance legal cases that they thought would erode Christian values. Often that means they targeted the ACLU. They really hate the ACLU. I cannot overstate this enough. This was influence looking for a legal weapon. Dobson and all of his buddies had businesses to run, so they appointed a guy named Alan E. Sears to be president, CEO, and executive director of the ADF. Fun fact, Sears was a Catholic. He converted from evangelicalism 5 years before the ADF started. We should probably do an episode on Catholicism at some point. Our VP, Just Dance Vance, is also Catholic. I think there's a whole strain of Catholicism that ties in to evangelicalism really interestingly. That's not for today. I just pointed out to say this is about control and hierarchy, not about theology per se.
Did you call him Just Dance Vance?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Our Dobby boy also worked with Sears on the Meese Commission. For those of you playing along at home, the Meese Commission was a project ordered by Reagan to study, meaning recommend censorship of pornography. This report was a big milestone in Dobson's eventual Ted Bundy interview as well.
Oh. No comment.
They did fund cases for a time. In 1995, the year after they founded, they provided funding to defend a religious student newspaper that was denied school funds. The case, Rosenberger v. University of Virginia, was in 1995, and it was heard by the Supreme Court. And the newspaper won that case. They funded the people who said, hey, we're unfairly discriminated against. We want to make a newspaper that's religious, and the Supreme Court said you are allowed to do that and get school funds to do so. Eventually, though, they began hiring their own attorneys and working on cases themselves. One of their very first cases was Hollingsworth v. Perry, which was a 2010s case about gay marriage in California. Brooke, were you aware of Prop 8 when it was happening?
Yes, I was.
This is about Prop 8. What is your recollection of Prop 8?
Familiar.
Yeah.
Hollingsworth, when you said that, that sounded familiar. Prop 8 was, yeah, I was living in Chicago at that point. I was a full-grown adult. It was about gay marriage.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what it was? Like, yes, it was about gay marriage. Do you remember, like, any of the context around it?
Not really.
That's okay. California passed Proposition 8, Prop 8, which made gay marriage illegal in the state.
Yes.
So they had outlawed gay marriage, and then this case in 2010 sought to overturn that, to make gay marriage legal in the state of California.
But gay marriage wasn't legal at all yet, was it?
There was a lot of cultural conversations, and so there's starting to be some states that had legalized gay marriage, very few of them. I say that both because it's important context for what we're talking about here, but also because this is really recent history. This is 2010. This is 16 years ago. It's within Tyler's lifetime. It's within my lifetime. It's within all of our lifetimes that California, the most like liberal woke state, made gay marriage illegal.
Right.
So in this time, in 2010, the state of California declined to defend the law. So it was illegal, but people were like, well, like, maybe it shouldn't be. We're not going to prosecute anybody for it. So groups like the people who ran protectmarriage.com and the Campaign for California Families stepped in. They sued the state to say, you have to enforce this law. And the ADF represented them in court. The ADF lost, and Prop 8 was overturned, making gay marriage legal in California. But not only did the ADF lose, apparently, they were awful at this. It was just, they did it such a bad job. CBS's legal analysis said during the trial, Walker, the judge, practically begged and cajoled the Prop 8 lawyers to do better for their cause. He asked them written questions to draw them out. He scolded them during closing arguments to make more persuasive arguments. They simply didn't or couldn't or wouldn't respond. And another Christian law group, Liberty Counsel, founded in 1989, there are other Christian law groups, criticized the ADF, saying, quote, ADF presented only 2 witnesses at trial, following the 15 witnesses presented by those who challenged Proposition 8. Even Judge Walker commented that he was concerned by the lack of evidence presented by the ADF on behalf of Prop 8. They are bad at this. They are bad at the lawyering part of this. And spoilers, their legal strategies don't get much smarter. I read a lot of their legal briefs to the Supreme Court, and they are not very good at all. Like, obviously, I think they are morally bad, but they're not really persuasive or even super related to the legal questions at hand. They submitted a brief for Lawrence v. Texas, a 2003 case that said anti-sodomy laws are illegal. And in this brief, they basically talked about how unhealthy gay anal sex is for 45 pages, that wasn't what the court was considering. That wasn't like the legal question at hand in front of the Supreme Court. They just kind of were saying, we think it's gross and icky and bad, and so there it should be illegal. And that's not really how amicus briefs,
right,
meaningful amicus briefs for cases like this work. Like, they're just bad at this. But that's not the point. They're stupid, but they're powerful. They are losing cases, but they are winning influence, building their coalition and their brand, and they were very successful at that. You don't need good arguments when you have a brand. A brand replaces persuasion with affiliation, and at that point, truth becomes irrelevant. They were failing upwards because they had connections. The real success is that of brand recognition. There are a lot of people connected to the ADF, such as former Prime Minister of Australia, Tony Abbott, multiple judges, such as Kyle Duncan on the 5th Court of Appeals. Josh Hawley, current U.S. Senator, worked for the ADF. Mike Pence, former Vice President of the United States, worked for the ADF. Jeff Sessions, former Senator and Attorney General. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, that guy who we've talked about a couple times, who is accountability buddies with his son to watch their porn usage together.
Yes, ew.
He started as a lawyer for the ADF. That's how his career started. And also, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett has ties to the ADF.
God.
There is one more name you might recognize. Once Alan Sears stepped down as president and CEO, he was replaced by a guy named Michael Ferris.
Oh, God. No.
Yes.
This guy, we've listened to this guy, right?
We have.
Something education.
Yeah, he was the founder of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA, which we talked about in our episode Dobson versus Public Education. He was inspired to get into homeschooling because of Dobson. That fucker ran the ADF from 2017 through 2022.
Well, I hate him.
Time frame is interesting, 2017 to 2022. What interesting political, legal thing might have happened in that time?
The insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And Biden's election.
Yeah, the 2020 election, right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Ferris worked behind the scenes to help Trump overturn that election. He gave the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, a pre-written lawsuit contesting the election. Paxton filed this lawsuit after making some changes. This is what went to the Supreme Court to say, hey, maybe we should overturn this election. Michael Ferris wrote that. Ferris, president and CEO of the ADF. He said the ADF wasn't involved. He was just doing this in his personal capacity. It was a side project, he claims. It's a very lawyer-brained kind of argument because, like, technically, legally, you cannot prove that he wasn't acting in a personal capacity. But I'm not a lawyer. Very clearly, he wasn't. Very clearly, he was using his connection and role at the ADF to try to overturn a democratic election.
Right.
They don't need good arguments. They have connections. They need to push their ideology. They don't have to persuade when they can indoctrinate. Part 2, morality becomes infrastructure. When the Defense Fund became Defending Freedom, the ADF began arguing cases directly. There was a name change. They weren't just now pooling money to give to people. They were doing the arguing. They were doing the lawyering for it. So, if you are a Christian who makes that fact everyone else's problems, you can hire an ADF attorney. According to The Nation, in 2021, you have 3,500 ADF attorneys to choose from. That's a lot. That's a lot of people that they have on the payroll.
Yeah.
And they still do argue cases directly. ADF lawyers argued Burwell v. Hobby Lobby, the case at the Supreme Court that said companies do not have to cover birth control in their health insurance plans. That was part of Obamacare, the law that was passed. They said you have to cover a certain amount of things, pre-existing conditions, birth control, and Hobby Lobby sucks. The lawyers for Hobby Lobby, ADF lawyers arguing on behalf of Hobby Lobby, got the Supreme Court to say, no, we don't need to cover that. ADF lawyers also argued Masterpiece Cake Shop v. Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the gay cake case.
Oh, yeah.
ADF, they were the ones who were arguing that. They argued the follow-up, 303 Creative versus LA-ness, which is a much dumber case. All these cases are saying if you are doing something creative, you shouldn't be forced to do your creative job for something you don't believe in. But 303 Creative is so dumb. A woman here argued it was discrimination against her Christian belief if she were to hypothetically become a wedding designer, and if at that point someone hypothetically asked her to make a website for a gay wedding. She was not a wedding designer. No one had asked her to do these things. But the fact that hypothetically someone could is what they were arguing. And the ADF won that case.
Oh my God. I hate the ADF.
Yeah, they're the worst. They're building this morality into legal infrastructure. And they make legal arguments. I don't find them particularly persuasive, but that doesn't matter. They don't have to be good at the actual lawyering part of it.
Right.
They also argued Chiles versus Salazar, a case that the court has yet to decide on. Decision coming soon this year, which, if decided on behalf of the ADF side, would say that conversion therapy is a free speech thing. Literally, the argument is a therapist says to tell someone you should do conversion therapy, it's their free speech as a therapist to say that. It's so stupid. Like, there are a lot of things as a therapist I cannot say, like, go kill yourself, right? I can't say that. I shouldn't say that.
Right.
Because that would do harm to the client. This falls directly in that conversion therapy doesn't work. It has so many detrimental health outcomes in the short, medium, and long term. It's not a free speech thing. It may very well win. meaning conversion therapy for kids could be legal in all states again if it is decided in this way. That is what the ADF is arguing for.
This is terrible.
It's awful. Masking conversion therapy as free speech is a way to strip harm of responsibility. It doesn't matter if it works, like spanking, the punishment is the focus. The punishment is deserved.
Right.
That's really what they're saying. That's really what they're arguing. That's not what the legal briefs would say, but that's really the thrust. Because the science isn't there, like the actual logic isn't there, what they're actually arguing for is punishment.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just litigate, though. The ADF is now big on training, recruiting, and building a network of bigoted lawyers. And a big name in this effort is the Blackstone Legal Fellowship, a training and internship program. The ADF claims that about 3,000 law students have participated in the program since its inception in 2000. Students are given 2 weeks of classroom training, then they complete a field placement internship. It could be government offices, law firms, public interest advocacy groups, etc. And then 1 more week post-internship about professional development. So it's like a summer-long kind of internship, essentially. This is where Amy Coney Barrett comes in. She taught constitutional law for Blackstone fellowships multiple years in a row. So she did not go through this fellowship, but they paid her money to teach people about constitutional law. Amy Coney Barrett sucks at constitutional law. When you read any of the decisions that she writes or opinions of the court that she writes, it's not the worst. Brett Kavanaugh, his opinions are trash. Alito and Thomas also have like pretty shitty opinions. Coney Barrett is like technically a little bit above them. She's not good at this, but again, she doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Hawley, the senator that we talked about, he, I would say, is most famous for on January 6th giving a thumbs up to the people who had later stormed the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
He went through the Blackstone Fellowship. He was a person who did this training. Brooke, we both have helped run a professional internship.
Oh, I think you know all the reasons why that made me laugh so hard.
Here's what I tell the people who we have worked with to train. We do a very intentional job of building something. I think the way that we teach is thoughtful and good and helpful. But to a certain degree, the information you learn at an internship isn't super going to change all that much.
Right.
Our practices focus on themes of social justice in a way that an internship at a Catholic agency probably won't. But both are probably going to teach you how to do notes, assess for safety, incorporate theory into practice, etc. The basics, what internships are for.
Mm-hmm.
The real benefit to internships is networking. And that's what the Blackstone Fellowship and the ADF is good about. You don't want to be taught by Amy Coney Barrett because she's some brilliant legal mind. You want to be taught by her because she's going places, and you want to be able to say, I did this with Amy Coney Barrett. Even before she became a Supreme Court justice, she was on a short list of people to become a Supreme Court justice. Donald Trump doesn't care really who becomes a Supreme Court justice. He literally had a list given to him by a different group, and he just like, that person, we'll go with them, and just kind of picked the name of the list. Amy Coney Barrett was kind of in talks for a while to be on that list. Again, the ADF wasn't made by a bunch of nobodies. It wasn't made by a bunch of lawyers. It was made by a bunch of famous, successful, politically connected evangelicals. This was after the Ted Bundy interview. So like they had, their names were out there. This is what elite capture is. Evangelicals have done an excellent job creating a pretty insulated pipeline. Homeschool or private school at the start, then you go into a Christian college, and then an internship and fellowships like Blackstone into being a lawyer or judge or politician. And then you're not really getting any outside perspectives. It's kind of the same rhetoric, the same people teaching you from start to end until now you're a Supreme Court justice. You don't need to convince, you need to recruit. And with influence, success begets success. It's good for you and good for the ADF if you are as successful as possible, like being a prime minister or senator or a fucking Supreme Court justice, being power hungry for Jesus. Having all these big names mean that people will listen to you more. This is soft power, power over the culture. That's why they take on big name cases. I'm sure they want to win, but winning isn't really the point. If they don't win, they still get to make a splash. All press is good press, etc.
Right.
The Alliance Defending Fuckdom has one other big purpose: telling legislators what to do. The ADF literally writes out legislation for members of Congress, usually state level Congress, where all the members have to do is sign their names on the dotted line. This is what I was talking about with Michael Ferris trying to overturn the 2020 election. He wrote out a lawsuit basically ready to be filed, title page and all, just missing names and contact information for Ken Paxton to rubber stamp. And largely, that's what Ken Paxton did. The ADF writing laws collapses the distance between ideology and law, and democracy becomes a hollow formality. This, specifically, is a problem not just limited to the ADF. This is how a lot of lobbying groups work. A lot of lobbying groups will just give legislators bills pre-written and say, like, here's what we want, just go for it. We'll pay you lots of money to go for it. Because it turns out writing meaningful legislation is hard. It takes a lot of time and a lot of expertise, and members of Congress have important things to do, like ask donors for lots of money or cover up the Epstein files.
Like, I'm thinking about all of my clients recently who are coming in and talking about how helpless they feel and what can they do and all these things. And it's like, we're really not, nothing. There's nothing we can do because there is no democracy. We're not really doing anything. It's so depressing. You know?
We'll talk a little bit about what can be done at the end, but yeah, it's called elite capture for a reason.
Mhm.
Often, a lot of these state legislators have also been through the similar pipeline. Everyone who's just operating from the same Dobson-fueled world, just talking to each other. My gay ass in Chicago who's not connected to them at all, me writing them a letter is not going to do anything.
Right.
This is more or less the purpose of lobbying groups. It just sucks that this lobbying group has so much power and is hell-bent on doing a Christian nationalism about it. To make a meaningful legislative difference, you don't need to convince the majority of people that you are right. You need to convince enough people in power that you are right. And it's really easy to do when they've outsourced thinking to you, and or if you give them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
The combination of elite capture and soft power is how minority ideologies become law. So part 3, let's see this in action. I think the most clear example of how the ADF functions is by checking out one specific case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. You might remember this case. It was decided somewhat recently. It's the one that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
So when Roe v. Wade was decided, which protected the right to abortion, it didn't say all abortion was okay. What the line is when you could start outlawing abortion was kind of vague. According to the ruling, a person may choose to have an abortion without restrictions at all in the first trimester, some moderate restrictions in the second trimester, and could theoretically prohibit all third trimester abortions, which is somewhat arbitrary, but they felt like they had to draw the line somewhere. The line was later moved from a trimester system to viability. If a fetus could be expected to viably live outside the womb, abortion was a no-go. But that is also vague. Like there's a kind of logic to it, I suppose, but what counts as viability is hard. And so it led to all sorts of laws across the United States meant to push that line as much as possible. And for decades, the Supreme Court played whack-a-mole with these laws. They outlawed a ban of 6 weeks for abortion from North Dakota, but allowed bans after 24 weeks. So that's kind of the framework that we're operating in. They didn't really further define viability, just kind of kept the tense status quo for as much as possible. And as Donald Trump granted the Federalist Society's wet dream of Supreme Court justices, anyone paying attention could sense the vibe shifting. And the ADF and all the power decided that this was the moment to pounce. It was the Alliance Defending Freedom who created the legislation about abortion. They literally wrote the fucking bill, and in 2018, Mississippi passed the Gestational Age Act, banning abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. They knew that was going to be challenged. They knew that was going to go right to the Supreme Court. It was a very intentional and planned, and the law was basically a formality at this point. They knew the votes they had on the Supreme Court. They knew exactly how it would play out. The outcome was decided. The case was more about timing than anything. There was an argument for why they picked 15 weeks. It was when the fetus could feel pain, and no one wants to see a little bitty baby tiny suffer in pain. And that's not really how things work, but again, the reasoning doesn't matter. I couldn't independently verify this, but I've seen multiple reports that this bill was nearly identical to the ADF's example legislation. Literally, the ADF wrote the bill, and They admitted it. They admitted it that the entire purpose of this was to get to the Supreme Court. Quote, I can guarantee you that they will not be able to ignore a 15-week limitation, which is, in essence, limiting abortion to the first trimester. We're kind of baiting them. Come on, fight us on turf we've already set up and established. I'm happy to say the first 15-week limitation based on our model language was just introduced in the state of Mississippi this week, ADF Senior Counsel Denise Burke said in January 2018. Quote, we have carefully targeted states based on where we think the courts are the best, where we think the governors, the AGs, and the legislatures are going to do the best job at defending these laws, Burke added. Once we get these first trimester limitations in place, we are going to go for a complete ban on abortion, except to save the life of the mother. What a nice exception. Not exceptions for rape or incest either.
But also, oh God. Like, I don't have any real science to talk about here, but like, no, I don't think people are like 9 months pregnant and then they're like, you know what? I changed my mind.
That's not how that works.
It's not really what is happening. Like, it is to protect the lives or health of the pregnant person, right? Most often. So the concept that there's just like 9 months of deciding if you want to be pregnant or not is not usually what's happening. Also,
Correct.
I mean, that's not even like an abortion. That's like a whole surgical procedure, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
And
you know what I mean? Like,
truly what the evangelicals think is that there are people who are getting pregnant and waiting 9 months because they actually want to murder a baby. Like, that is actually what they think, which is so ridiculous.
Right.
That's just the most absurd thing ever. But like, they might not always say it like that, but they will call abortion satanic. They'll talk about it being child sacrifices. Just Dance Vance, he spoke at the March for Life and did a whole thing about how brothels back in the old days were surrounded by corpses of babies because like they're satanic child sacrifices. It's QAnon adjacent. Like it's just absurd. The ADF's job is to put this in language that doesn't offend the court, so the court can do whatever the fuck they want to do anyway. Like their job is to clean it up. That's why they don't have to make it. Their arguments don't have to make sense. They just have to like pass the vibe check.
Right. Yeah, because the truth is that I would say the majority of people having late-term abortions are people who are probably also in a pretty severe state of grief about it to some extent.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So really rubbing salt in that wound is great.
And
we don't want to frame it that way, right? Because we don't want to have any empathy for those people.
Correct. It's punishment. It's what you deserve. It doesn't matter if there's a good reason for it. If you were a slut who got pregnant, you deserve to suffer and carry the baby to term. Yeah. That's really what the morality comes to. Important to note, the ADF did not argue this case in front of the Supreme Court. It was not an ADF lawyer up there arguing it. But they did work hand in hand with the Mississippi Attorney General's team. The ADF says they, quote, served on the legal team to defend the law. I'm sure there's an important legal distinction between representing and serving on the legal team. Again, I'm not a lawyer. My mom says I'm good at arguing, but I'm not a lawyer. But as a layperson, that's not really a difference. That kind of doesn't fucking matter, does it? If you're serving on the legal team, you're doing the job of lawyer to make this happen. Right. So they wrote the law for the state, and then they told them how to argue it. They were drafting, they were networking, they wanted it to be heard in the Fifth Court of Appeals. They picked Mississippi for a specific reason, not to get too deep into the weeds of how courts of appeals work, but this is a type of federal court that hears cases from select areas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And it has historically been a very conservative court. If you hear stuff coming out of the Fifth Court of Appeals, gird your loins because it's probably going to some batshit stuff. So the ADF wrote the legislation. They picked the courts that thought them gave them the best chance. They sent it to the Supreme Court, and they worked with Mississippi to argue it to the Supreme Court, which had been captured by ideologues that they agreed with. And we all know how it went down. If the evangelical right had worked tirelessly for decades to fill the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, with their fucking bigoted and brainless buffoons. And once the court was captured, arguments didn't matter. The main questions the court is now dealing with is, do we have enough rhetorical cover to do the things we want to do? It's about vibes. The decision didn't really deal with questions of viability or pain. It said actually there's no right to abortion at all. There was a specific legal question that the Supreme Court was asked to decide on, and they just went, "That doesn't matter. Abortion's bad, actually."
Hmm.
Again, their arguments were nonsensical, but it doesn't matter. It's the vibes. It's the
Yeah.
politics. This was the main case that all these fucking freaks had focused on for decades. The question is never, what does the Constitution say? It's what can we make it justify?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going back for me again to what I was saying earlier with a lot of my clients and friends and myself and people in life being like feeling so helpless. It's because it's futile to even try to argue, right? Because there's just like, no, these are the vibes. This is what we're saying and what we say go. I mean, it's just power, right? Like
Yes,
without logic, right?
exactly. Their game is brute force and power.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what now? They did their big one, overturning Roe v. Wade. Woo. But this legal apparatus still exists. These Supreme Court justices will be on the Supreme Court for the rest of their goddamn lives, with lots of other cases to rule on. So they're still coming after abortion. Just because they overturned Roe v. Wade, as they said in their statement in January 2018, they want a total ban on all abortion. Currently, the focus is on medication abortion, the abortion pill, more specifically mifepristone. They have a couple of different legal strategies in play that are working their way through the courts, but we can talk about the specific steps they want to take to that, but their end goal explicitly is to ban all abortion. One could argue and see a world which it doesn't just end at abortion, they want to outlaw all birth control, which was a thing that happened. There's a whole ass Supreme Court case saying married couples actually should have the right to birth control if they want. I'm sure they're coming for that. They also really fucking hate queer people. It hasn't super been the focus on this episode because I think the Dobbs decision is absolutely filthy with ADF fingerprints, but these yahoos spend a ton of time fighting against the right to discriminate against and subordinate queer people. The Gay Cake or Fake Wedding website is part of that. They've also submitted supplementary material to the court, such as an amicus brief, so-called expert testimony, such as in the Obergefell case, the one that gave us gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They've represented a number of athletes who want to discriminate against trans people, including Riley Gaines, probably the most famous anti-trans athlete, who got tied for fourth place in a swimming tournament against a trans woman, and now has made a whole career about that. Again, they're trying to make conversion therapy for kids a free speech thing. Right now, trans people are their focus and their scapegoat. And that's not just rhetorical. Members of the International Association of Genocide Scholars warned early last month that the United States may be in the early stages of committing genocide against transgender people. This effort has multiple arms, but the ADF is leading the legal charge. There's a deeper write-up included in the show notes if you want to read more about this, if you want to understand what's going on in the world and also be very depressed about it.
Yeah.
They do not deserve to be taken seriously, at their word or in good faith. When they made the 15-week abortion ban bill, they did it specifically to be sued and to overturn Roe. If you were to argue, like, well, that's not actually how, like, fetuses feel pain, or sometimes they'll talk about a heartbeat bill. It's not actually a heartbeat. It's a cluster of cells that could eventually turn into a heart, right? To do that is to miss the point. They don't care about that.
Right.
They don't care about a hypothetical website designer. They don't care about any of this. They don't think queer people should exist at all. They don't think abortion should be allowed under any circumstance. They think adoption agencies should be able to only work with Christian couples. They have sued to allow a Christian adoption agency not to work with a Jewish family.
Oh my God.
Clearly, they don't want women to have rights over their own body. My next sentence is bring back Rent-A-Teen.
Oh my God. This is tough.
It's tough.
I'm sorry, readers. I'm sorry that Jake is doing this to you.
I had a whole section where I went through their arguments against gay marriage because I read a lot of their stuff against it. But honestly, I think taking them seriously, like this is representative of the actual beliefs, is to be stupid to the point of negligence.
Right.
Their arguments are like, marriage is about having babies, or kids are best when they are with their biological parents. It's not about the kids. It's not about the fact that a lot of couples don't have kids, or that adoption kids are best with bio parents, adoption would be and that thing.
Like, I can't, unless you are somehow connected to adoption, like, shut up. Like,
Yes.
people just don't, like, no one gets it. Kids are not necessarily better with their biological families. That is
No.
so insane to me, you know? And like all the arguments about it, the idea that adoption is somehow easier than abortion is wild.
It's
Like,
wild.
there's so much involved in it that no one could ever understand unless they were in some way connected to it. And it's and same with abortion. It's infuriating.
2 days before we started recording this, an ad came out, an ad campaign called Greater Than, and it is effort by a lot of organizations, including the Southern Baptist Convention and some Dobson founded organizations like Family Research Councils, specifically saying we need to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges because it's unfair to kids. That's their whole argument. I think to engage with what they're saying and to say, like, well, no, actually, there's not any statistical difference really between outcomes for kids of gay parents versus straight parents, or, hey, by your argument, adoption should be outlawed, or you should force people to marry the people that they get pregnant. Like, there's a lot of fallout from urological arguments. To engage with them on that level, I think, is wrong. What they're saying is they don't like queer people. They find us yucky and sinful and feel personally insulted when they aren't able to make us suffer,
Mm-hmm.
which is especially true for trans people now, by the way. They want to make it impossible to be a trans person so that people aren't out, so people don't exist. And they don't care that that will lead people to suicide, which it inevitably will. They kind of want that, actually.
Right. Right.
I don't want to instill fear or panic, but I think we should be clear about what we are up against. There is a huge, well-funded, astroturfed, highly influential network of Christian nationalists at all level of our legal system and politics. They're willing to play the game of law and technicalities rather than making honest arguments and convincing people. And they want to turn America, and frankly the world, into a theocracy of white evangelical beliefs.
Like, how do you I'm being serious. Like, how do you think you're the good guys when you're these people?
It is
Like,
such a black and white worldview. They
mm-hmm.
are on the side of God and Jesus and the unborn and traditional marriage, whatever your rhetoric they need to tell themselves. And anyone who disagrees with them is of the devil. There's no nuance. There's no like, well, like it's a difficult thing. There's some nuance. We gotta like consider a couple points, and like you have a. I have never had an evangelical tell me, well, you make some good points, and I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm talking about gay stuff or conversion therapy or the fact that there are queer and especially trans youth make up disproportionately higher amounts of homeless kids because their parents kick them out, that's never really considered or internalized because anyone who disagrees with them is of the devil, is satanic. It's such a black and white worldview.
I mean, it's a worldview that is framed as like love and and but is just so rooted in hate.
Yes.
It's just hateful.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so surprising to me that there are still so many people who are like, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not surprising. I know I sound naive, but it's like, I guess because it's not how my brain works, but it's like, I just can't imagine really in your heart of hearts being like, yeah, I'm right.
Well, I mean, we talked about this with like elite capture, but I don't think it's just elites. There's such an insulated ecosystem. Many of these
Mm-hmm.
people don't know that they've ever talked to a gay person or a trans person or a black person because there's a whole racialized element to this too that we're not getting into. I have a whole episode in the works about the racism of James Dobson. That'll be fun. But like
Mm-hmm.
when you don't know any people who are impacted by this, it doesn't become a real nuanced argument. When you don't know anyone who's had an abortion or you don't know that you know anyone who's had an abortion, it becomes really easy for it to be this like, why would anyone do that? Why would you want to murder a baby? As opposed to like
Right.
people who've had abortions, it's a weird, fraught, kind of complex issue. Even when you feel fine about it, like there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
that gets complicated in there.
Yeah. And, it's like, it's whatever experience it is. For some people it's complicated, for some people it's really not that complicated, right?
Mm.
And but it doesn't matter, it's up to them. And you're exactly right, because it's all just what you're saying is like it's all just fear of the unknown. Like, I
Mhm.
don't understand this, or I'm somehow scared of this, or I am unfamiliar with how to navigate this, or whatever. And then it's like, okay, so either learn or ignore it. But like
Mhm.
actively trying to take things down is a wild sort of approach.
I think you're so spot on by calling it fear of the unknown. I want to focus on the fear for a second because that's the thing that comes up all the time. Dobson's main
Mhm.
rhetorical strategy is fear. And when it's stoked, when fear is the main emotion that you experience, I'm thinking about complex PTSD, CPTSD.
Mhm.
Clinically, when we think of PTSD, there's like a specific isolated incident of something that happens. You witness a violent crime. A terrible thing that happens, but it's one acute experience. And then we understand kind of how that happens, flashbacks, triggers, etc. CPTSD is what if it's not like one event? What if it's just kind of like a culture of trauma? Living in an abusive household, for instance. There might be acute experiences of abuse, but even when that's not happening, you never really get to fully rest. And what we know happens with people who are exposed to that kind of chronic level of trauma, in this case, being exposed to such chronic fear and stoking of things being called satanic, they're trying to come for us, the martyrdom complex, all this ties together with it. Everything is a threat. Everything gets taken to that same level, no matter how big or small it might actually be. Me getting married to boyfriend, that has no bearing on somebody in South Carolina who I don't know and will never talk to, but it gets framed as satanic as I'm coming for their kids, and therefore it gets registered in the same threat level as anything that might actually be a real threat to them. It flattens everything. That black and white thinking gets applied to their emotions as well. I feel scared, therefore I'm scared at the same level as everything else.
Mhm.
So I don't know what to do about this, especially in the short term.
Yeah. I think this is just always what I'm thinking when we record these is I'm like, if you're really, really lucky, you have like 80 or 90 years. And this is really what you want to spend them doing. You
Yeah.
know? It's like, I mean, whatever. There's probably things I don't understand or don't know about or don't even appreciate or think are cool or like, and I just they're not part of my life.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
actively trying to take them down. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess the exception being Republicans.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I don't get it. It's so sad.
I do know that the solutions are largely political. We need, for instance, a president with a fucking backbone willing to pack the Supreme Court. If whoever the next president after Trump that's not a fucking fascist is, if they're not going to pack the Supreme Court, they're not going to do anything. It's just going to be ineffective. This like half measure
Yeah.
liberal whatever bullshit, that's not going to cut it anymore.
Do you think there will be a next president after Trump?
I don't know. If it's up to them, no. Elections are done so locally that it's really hard to have that kind of interference with it. Uh, it will not be easy. I think it is. If I do think there will be elections, or the outcome of that is so beyond what I can meaningfully predict.
Yeah.
But I do know individually and in a more local level, what you can do is tell them no. You don't have to take them seriously. If someone starts arguing about fetal viability as pretext for abortion, or how trans women in sports is the biggest issue facing us, or conversion therapy is a free speech issue, you don't have to engage. You can reject the premise. You can say, "What?
Yeah.
No, you're wrong. That's dumb. That's I don't believe you." You are allowed
In
to
fact,
call it out.
for your own mental health, I would encourage you not to engage in those arguments
Yeah.
because there's not you're not talking to, you don't have a partner in the discussion. You're not talking to someone who is wanting to have a discussion with you.
Hmm. And
Mm.
we've talked about this a little bit before with like our Dare to Share evangelizing episode. There are a lot of people who are told like, here's a series of arguments that you should make to win the argument. Don't give into it. They're not making good faith arguments. So they're saying whatever they need to say to back you into corner so that you can be like, I guess you're right. Say, no, what? That's not how anything works. That's not
Mhm.
how you're just wrong. You're just dumb.
Mhm.
Some people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. recognizing the machinery of the system is the first big step towards resistance. And that's part of what I wanted to do here, to help people see how these things function in this broader systemic way. I don't think a lot of people knew that the Dobbs decision was not solely, but pretty uniquely an ADF creation through and through. I think the best thing we can do in the short term, unfortunately, is to prepare ourselves. What would you do if abortion pills couldn't be sent by mail? What if gender affirming care was outlawed? I'm not saying that these things are necessarily going to happen, but I think it is a real possibility that they are, and we need to start thinking about things in that term. It's worth seriously considering.
Yes, and talking to people in your circle about and all of that, and not talking about those plans, places where it could get you in trouble.
Yeah. I want, how do I say? I am a deep believer that ICE should be abolished, and that's kind of the like lower end of my politics. I'm not going to be talking on the program about any protests that I go to anymore. Like I've done that a little bit in the past. It's not safe to do that. Consider getting like encrypted things like Signal. And there are many people, living or not, who have been in these realities. Gender affirming care wasn't a thing for so long. Gay marriage was outlawed. We don't have the luxury of despair.
I love that.
Thank you. The ADF has come a long way since it began in 1994, becoming a worse and more powerful version of itself year after year. It is a force of unquestioned evil and shame in our society, burnished both by its members and its funders. But to me, personally, I put the blame for this vile organization on one James Dobson. And we see Dobson's rhetoric and logic all over the place with ADF. Punishment for bad people is deserved, like women who get pregnant out of wedlock or kids who happen to be trans. Fear as pedagogy. White Christian nationalism as morality, the God-ordained hierarchy which we must all live under. People must be constrained because they cannot be trusted in this worldview. Conservatism once has been defined as, quote, there must be in-groups for whom the law protects but does not bind, alongside out-groups whom the law binds but does not protect. The law protects me because I'm a good Christian and can kind of do whatever I want. Any misstep that you make, you brought a gun to a protest without an ID, therefore you deserve to be murdered. It is binding you, but it does not protect you. That's what conservatism is, and the ADF makes that a legal reality. Dobson taught that suffering produces obedience, people can't be trusted, and authority must be enforced. The ADF made that worldview law. James Dobson may be dead, and thankfully so, but his legacy lives on. It continues to haunt us and our country through things like the ADF. I hate the ADF, and I hate James Dobson.
I hate the ADF, and I hate James Dobson, too. And so does Faye. Will you take a screenshot of us really quick, all three of us? Okay, well, that was very depressing.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that so much. Fig hated it too. Please make the next one funnier. I hate everything we just talked about so much.
It's bad.
Did you ever watch the show Succession?
No, because I don't have Apple.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Apple TV.
Well, it's a really good show, but it's hard to watch because the whole time you're like, oh, yeah, we're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, like, power, in terms of decision-making, in terms of, like, how often we're being fooled and how much we think we're doing that we're just not. You know what I mean?
So often I think about how the rhetoric of Christian nationalism, evangelicalism, a lot of the isms, like, separates us from our humanity. And so the ability to continue, like, it's somewhat trite to say joy is an act of resistance, and we need more than just that. But also, like, that's why we're pushing back, like, what? That's not how trans people work. That's not how gay people work. That's not how abortion works. It's to ground the conversation in actual humanity. It's just
Right.
like, you live in this world with me. You know me as a person.
I would say talk to people who are getting abortions, not to try to convince them to not get an abortion. Find out why they're getting an abortion, and then go home and think about it, and then see where you stand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's it's just wild, like when you actually are talking to real people in real situations.
I believe that most people who are protesting abortion clinics, for instance, while I think that they are actively bad people, I think that they think they're doing a good thing. Again, people want to think of themselves as a good person. If you are
Mhm.
actually, though, interested in helping children and protecting the most vulnerable among us, you would, for instance, be really supportive of Social Security and get rid of work requirements, because how are you expecting a new single mother to try to work enough and find childcare? You'd support universal childcare. You would do a lot of things that evangelicals and conservatives generally don't want to do, because it's not actually about helping kids. It's about
Right.
controlling people. Anyway,
Well,
this is bad. I'm gonna go get my hair cut.
okay, I'm gonna go get some tacos. But can we hang out and not talk about any of this sometime soon?
I would love that. Yes. I feel like I haven't seen you in person in like 2 years. I Hate James Dobson is a labor of love, spite, written, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Jake. In this venture, I am honored to be joined by my amazing co-host, Brooke. If you're enjoying the show, please consider rating and reviewing it. And if you want to connect with us more, you can find us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube at I Hate James Dobson, and somehow still on Twitter at IHateJDobs. You can also email us at IHateJamesDobson@gmail.com. We have merch available at IHateJamesDobson.printful.me or on our website, IHateJamesDobson.com. Our theme music is by Mood Maze and the song is called Trendsetter. Special thanks, as always, to Drew, Lindsay, DJ, Jack, and Gary. And thank you, readers, for enjoying our show.
Ow! Oh, did you see her bite me?
Yes.
We were just about to take the cutest picture, you nut.